The 2023 NFL draft process is a long one. Yes, you've got the combine, you've got the Senior Bowl, you've got all these different things, you got pro days. It's all kind of a big flurry. And a lot of times there's a lot of players that can get kind of lost in the mix, or they kind of drop down draft boards. People kind of forget about them. And that is why you kind of make a list of the sleepers in the 2023 draft, or any draft for that matter. And that is exactly what we're doing today in our top 5 sleepers currently in the 2023 NFL draft, or guys that need a lot more respect. And I don't think you can start with anybody other than Marvin Mims, excuse me, because he is the absolute #1 NFL draft sleeper. I really feel like, when you watch him, he's a guy that, quite honestly, he stretches the field, has done it for the last couple of years at Oklahoma, and he's just an absolute stud. So you'll see there his freshman year, yes, he came in and just absolutely tore the door off the roof. Is it door off the roof? Roof off the, you guys get the point. 9 total touchdowns, 16.5 yards per catch, 600 yards and only 37 catches. Came back his sophomore year, absolutely tore the door off the handle again, whatever you want to say, but a total of 32 catches, 705 yards, and 5 touchdowns. Was also a guy that came back and showed that he could do some things in the run game as well. I think in the NFL you could find him, get him some returns as well, because he's just that small, compact guy that can just make big plays. You also saw it his junior year, where he caught 54 passes for 1,083 yards, averaging 20 yards a catch, also had 6 touchdowns. And yes, I understand that, size is, he's not very big, like 5'10", 5'11", he's not the biggest guy, but he's a blazer. And honestly, I see kind of a mixture of 2 players with him. I see kind of a Percy Harvin and also a Stephon Diggs really type of role. So I see a guy that can, take a short pass and turn it into a big game, but also a guy that can really stretch the field and help out a lot of NFL offenses. And so, again, I do think he's going to be one of those guys that continues to impress people, but at the same time, it's not like it was a shock. Like, he's usually in that 4th round-ish type of situation, or that's at least where we've seen him mocked. But his RAS score was pretty good, as well as a 9.14, ran a 4.38 at the combine. Again, size wasn't great, 5'10", a $183 is what it is, but he's explosive in the jumps, about a 40-inch vertical, a 10.9 in the broad, and that 10, 20, and 40, I mean, it was literally a 1.55 for the 10, a 2.5, a 5 for the 20, and then a 4.38. So I mean, the guy, he's got speed for days, he's got explosiveness for days. I really think he's getting slept on early in this draft. I really think that with him and Jalen Hyatt, I think those 2 guys are kind of 1A and 1B for me for the field stretching wide receivers in this draft. So I think these 2 guys definitely, or at least, Marvin Mims needs to get more of an opportunity to be seen in a bigger light, because he is a big time player, and I think you'll see that later on as we move forward here. 2000 NFL draft sleeper number 2 is left guard Chandler Zavala. Now, I understand that this guard class, specifically after O'Cyrus Torrence and Steve Avila and all these guys, there's a drop-off. I understand that. I've seen Chandler Zavala go anywhere from, the 4th to the 7th round in a lot of mock drafts, and I get it, because you're talking about a guy that's only really a 2-year starter there, coming up out of North Carolina State. Also, you kind of, to a degree, question some of the competition you had to play with, but I mean, the production is production. You saw him play a total of 746 snaps there for the Wolfpack. Didn't allow a single sack, also had 3 hurries, and also only had 1 quarterback hit, but he had a PFF run blocking grade of 73.4 and a PFF pass blocking grade of 86.5. Overall, he sat there at a 76 overall. And he's a guy that the more and more I watch, he reminds me so much of Trey Smith. He's a guy that, he's very, very, big, 6'4", 320. He's not going to get pushed around very easily. Can you beat him with speed? Yes, but I think a lot of those things can be really coached up. And so I think, maybe kind of shifting some of his weight back a little bit more and having his arms in a little bit closer. There's some timing issues too with his punch, but overall, I think those are coachable things that you can really polish up. And I think he's going to be eventually a starter in the NFL. I'm not sure how high of a starter, but getting him in the 5th, 6th round would definitely be a steal. I think he's going to be a guy teams really need to keep an eye on, because he will immediately be an upgrade over pretty much, unless you got like Joe Thuney, or if you, let's say for the Raiders, he'd be an immediate upgrade at left or right guard for a team like that, or the Vikings. Doesn't matter, immediate upgrade. Dude's going to be a stud. 2023 NFL draft sleeper number 3, edge player Dylan Horton. Dylan Horton is a guy that, quite honestly, he's not the best against the run game. I'll extend the olive branch there. He is one of those guys that, especially when you watched him at the Senior Bowl and all those kind of things, he was pretty explosive. He's a guy that's very explosive. However, he really only focuses on going to get the quarterback, and you'll see that in his stats too. 4 sacks his senior there, or quote-unquote senior year there last year. And then this, 2 years ago, then this last year, for the Horned Frogs. He finished with 10.5 sacks, 15 total tackles for loss. Just an absolute stud. 51 total tackles in his last 2 years each. So, he's one of those guys that he makes enough plays in the run game. It's not the end of the world. But if you want to find a guy that's a late round edge rusher that is going to give you a little something off the snap, I definitely believe Dylan Horton is one of those guys. You'll see his run defense grade was a 74.6 according to PFF, as well as a 71.4 PFF pass rushing grade, which is huge. Finished his career with a 75.9 overall grade. Now, again, I understand run game is very important in the NFL. He's not a 3-down lineman right now. I really don't think so, but I do think he's a 2-down type player or a NASCAR type package if you want to bring him in on 3rd down. If you've got a 3-4 defense that you really want to put another athletic guy out there, I think you do it, no question. But Dylan Horton definitely could be and is most likely going to be in that 5th to 7th round selection kind of time frame is what we're kind of thinking. But overall, you can get a lot of value with a guy like Dylan Horton, and I think he can bring you a lot of pass rush off the snap. 2023 NFL Draft Sleeper number 4, defensive tackle Zach Pickens. I know we're going with defense a lot today, but some of the defensive players in this draft really do intrigue me, and it starts with Zach Pickens because if you watched him at the Senior Bowl, if you watched him at South Carolina, just an innate ability to be able to get push in and kind of in the backfield, but that first step really is what impresses me. And I know most likely the best defensive tackle in this draft right now is Jalen Carter. We're not even going to debate that, but Zach Pickens, between if we're talking just specifically penetrators, first gap penetrators, there's 3 players that I put with that first step that is not going to be matched in this draft. Obviously, Jalen Carter. I also think Kalijah Cansey falls in that, and then there's Zach Pickens. And I think Zach Pickens is going to go anywhere from the 4th to 6th round, but I think he could go sooner. So you'll see here 2.5 sacks last year with South Carolina, 4 sacks the year before. He's not a 2-gap player. He's a 1-gap player that's going to play mostly out of the B-gap. But last year, like I said, did have a ton of quarterback hurries. Wasn't an absolute liability in the run game. Again, that's not his strong suit. He's going to be a guy that's a 3rd down type player to start out with, but I think he could be one of those guys that develops into being an eventual huge type of a player, huge type of a starter for you down the line. And again, I understand it. Again, the run is, or defending the run, is so important in the NFL, but Zach Pickens is going to be one of those guys that develops into being at least a serviceable run defender. He reminds me a lot, and I'm not sure if you guys might remember, but I think it was, there was a couple of different players actually off the top of my head. Now, to a degree, Calais Campbell, to a degree. Also, I really think a good comparison, is somebody that's fast off the snap. That is, there you do see some just because of his first snap awareness, you see some hints of Aaron Donald. Not the rest of his game, I'll admit that, but it's his first step quickness, his violence. Yes, I do think that you definitely see some of that as well. And then finally, our 2000 NFL Draft Sleeper number 5 is cornerback Draconian Bennett. Now, Draconian Bennett ran a 4.3 at the combine. Some people might be saying, oh, he's not really a sleeper because he already ran fast. People kind of know about him. He is a sleeper, though, because right now NFL.com only really has him as a special teamer, maybe like a high-end backup. I think Draconian Bennett could be something pretty cool in the NFL, a pretty good special player. So you'll see 39 total tackles in his senior year there at Maryland after he had a couple of years at a community college. 5 total interceptions. Did drop 3 interceptions. I'll admit that. There's a reason he plays DB, okay? There's a reason. Overall, was targeted 54 times, only allowed 24 catches out of 54 targets, for 309 yards. No touchdowns. Did have a couple of interceptions. Allowed a 47.5 passer rating when thrown at, and had a PFF coverage grade of a 70.3. And so again, he's got the size, 5'10", 5'11", right at that 6-foot mark. But you got to look at that too, as like we showed you with the passes defensed. I'll bring it back here. 24 total passes defensed over the last couple of years. He's one of those guys that he fights for every single ball. I love it. I absolutely love it. I think there's some ways he reminds me of Jeff Gladney, rest in peace, from the Vikings. Also, Duke Shelley is another player that he reminds me of, also from the Vikings. Definitely going to be a guy that scraps and claws for every opportunity he gets. But I think once he gets his opportunity, he's going to make teams really take a look at him. I think he could go anywhere from that 5th to 7th round, and he'll be an absolute steal because I think he could be a starter down the line for just about any NFL team. But that is it. Those are our top 5 draft sleepers in the 2023 NFL Draft. Let us know what you guys think, and make sure you guys like and subscribe down below. Leave a like and a comment. It helps people find the show. We greatly appreciate all the support that we've gotten. We love every single one of you. Down in the description below, you'll find all of our social media platforms. So give us a like and a follow there. Also, remember to give us a listen and sub on iTunes. And finally, if you have anything else you'd like us to cover, send us an email at thesportsbp@yahoo.com or put in the comment section down below, and we would love to cover it. But let us know what you guys think about our top 5 sleepers in the 2023 NFL Draft.